Hi Starting Out Solitary, my name's Owlvine Green and I'm your Wednesday host. This week we're talking about how we came to be on our paths. Ever since I was young, I felt like the earth was sacred. I felt that there was something really special about plants and about the earth, about the whole. These ideas were very frowned upon by my family. My family are all Christians, and you know, I grew up in church and I went to a Christian school, a Christian high school. So these kind of ideas were never encouraged. You know, my mum liked animals as well, but sort of not to the extent that I did. You know, she didn't hold them as kind of sacred beings as well. I see them as, you know, terribly important, except for the ones that she was very attached to, you know, our pets and things like that. So I always had these ideas that nature was sacred and special somehow. And I grew up watching Disney, you know, magic and wonderful things like that. One of my favourite movies growing up was Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Another was Fern Gully. You know, movies like this, very sort of nature-based, very witchy. I always wanted to be a witch. You know, I loved the idea of witchcraft. It was something that I never really looked into much because my mum had always let me know that it was really bad and really evil. Although when I was 11, I had a friend who identified as a witch. Although since sort of thinking back to the whole episode, I don't think she actually was. I think it was more like, you know, she was just play acting, you know, something from Charmed, which was a show that I'd never watched, so I didn't realise the similarities until a couple of years ago when I watched Charmed. But we did a few things at school. I remember the first time I ever felt the power of magic. We were doing some kind of weather spell or something. Like, I just remember, like, it was a really windy day and I've always felt very invigorated by the wind, you know, the howling wind. And you know, we really connected with the earth and kind of did whatever we did, and that was the first time I'd really experienced that kind of power, and it was amazing. Unfortunately, I got a little bit turned off the whole witchcraft thing because my friends started telling me about, you know, all these warlocks that were going to be out to get me and all these kind of things. So I was like, oh, I was such a timid child, so I kind of didn't do that again. And then it was about the age of 19. I sort of stopped going to church. I was still going for a couple of years, but I wasn't committed anymore. I was kind of just going through the motions and going because I felt like, you know, I needed to, and a lot of my friends were going and things like that. And then when I was about 24, I think, I'm about to turn 28, so I think it was 4 years ago, I started looking into other spiritualities. You know, I was so confused, and I wanted to know what the truth was, you know, weaving through all these different religions, because everyone just, you know, the way they speak about their religion and their spirituality, you know, like they know it's true, they're absolutely convinced. I was like, well, they can't all be wrong. So, you know, the way I was brought up was there is one right way and that is it. And that didn't feel right, like it just didn't feel right. So I began researching and looking into it, and I came across paganism that way, so ancient paganism. You know, I decided that I wanted to look back to the very beginnings of where spirituality began, you know, as far as we kind of have recorded or have been able to find out. Because I thought, you know, there's got to be some kind of truth there, you know, like where does it begin? And so I found paganism, and then it really struck me, you know, like I decided from that point to, instead of trying to find what the be-all and end-all truth was, because it seems there are so many different versions and everyone has their version of truth and, you know, all that kind of thing, I decided to get back to my heart space and find out what it is that I believed. So kind of shake off all the muck, quieten my head and think, what is it that I believe in my heart space, in that quiet, soft center? And for me, it was about this, the sacredness of the earth. And so I went with that. And coming to today, I've now identified as a pagan and as a witch for coming up to 2 years now. It was a really courageous decision for me to make, to step into this way, even after I had kind of seen that it might be a good fit for me. I was still very scared to step into this way, you know, the whole hell thing. So it took me quite a long time to kind of wean in and then make the decision, okay, yes, I'm going to give this a go. I'm doing this out of love, and I'm going to see where it leads me, and hopefully everything will be fine. God, I'm not doing it because I hate you kind of thing. And I have never looked back. I have grown so much in myself, and I've become a really empowered person compared to what I was before. Before I was timid and scared, and now I feel like I've come into my own so much. I decided to be a witch about the same time that I stepped onto the pagan path. I discovered through YouTube a couple of people who identified as pantheistic pagans and witches. So a pantheist is someone who believes that the cosmos, the all, is holy, is divine. Basically, very basically. So that's kind of where I stand. You know, I believe that God is in us and everything, and we are, you know. So these people on YouTube were talking about this, and a couple of them identified as witches as well, and I was like, witchcraft, you know, it kind of lit that little spark in me again. And so I decided at the same time to kind of look into that, and it was all very, very tied up together for me, the paganism and witchcraft, and they are two separate things. One for me is my spirituality, and the other one for me is my craft and how I live my life. But they are very tied up together. So after researching and looking into things, I began practicing, and I am now a pantheistic pagan witch. And that is my little story. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next week for the next one. Many blessings.